It's a late summer night of 2016. Crickets hum, vibrating in the cool night air just outside your bedroom window. The lights dead, your face illuminated by the off-center head bobs of some other 12-year-old's furry OC. Many of you know this experience well, be it in 2016 like me or 2020. Either way, many of us have these nostalgic memories of these liminal moments of our childhood. Inspired and sleep-deprived. Watching fellow artists, silly OCs, dance to some copyrighted music. It was often that the creators of these animation memes weren't even able to make money off of it due to the fact that the video often was copyrighted. It really puts into perspective the raw passion of these artists regardless of talent and/or skill level. But sadly, animation memes took a pretty big dip in popularity and viewership in 2019. I'm Sabah Black Sheep. Have you any soul? No sir, no sir. But today, we are gonna talk about the burgeoning resurrection of the old animation meme community. Its ups and its sadly more negative aspects. That to some degree has changed little in the over 10 years of the community by this point. But before we get started, I'm working on a comic called Penelope's Peon. If you like character-oriented writing, like Disco Elysium, Goodnight Pom Pom, one of my favorite authors being Dostoevsky, heavily inspired by narratives like that, you might really like it. Especially Disco Elysium. It is very heavily Disco Elysium inspired. You can read it on Tapas. The link will be in the description. If that doesn't tickle your pickle, you can join the Patreon for Patreon-exclusive Discord streams every week, or just join our 17+ Discord server to meet a bunch of cool artists and get your art in the next video. But without further yapping, we begin. We are officially in Arc 2 of the animation meme community, and the question at the forefront is, has the community changed? Some people are pearl-clutching, saying how much better and more artistic and refined the olden days were. The others proclaim it's the exact same, issues in the community being foreseen since the ancient texts of the internet. Both, at least in my opinion, are a little wrong. I think being socially aware of the new climate of posting nowadays will not just aid the growth of the community socially, but also allow other artists to know what to use to their advantage when creating content within the modern animation meme community. As what artist doesn't want their animation they worked on for days to be seen by thousands? Many of you remember some facet of the community years ago. One of those most prevalent staples of the community back then was the animation meme commentary and rant creators. A group of creators renowned for their under-researched and emotionally driven opinions. It was definitely a product of its time when most of these creators and audiences were quite young, so holding them to a more well-rounded value system is relatively pointless. The online cultural shift of valuing more centered content has made most of these YouTubers nowadays either obsolete or their dramatic, vindictive proclivities eventually just set themselves alight. Most of the creators of this era either stopped making content or were proverbially cancelled. Spocked or Peaches, that one dude that pretended to be a 9-year-old, Solar Sands, etc. All made inflammatory content that often put down and unfairly criticized animation meme artists. When oftentimes the rant channel creators weren't even making animation memes and oftentimes weren't even artists to begin with. And if you pointed this out, the sentiment was often, well, I don't have to be a chef to know what tastes bad. Which just kind of falls flat since a lot of the animations they were tearing apart were made by children. Dude, even Gordon Ramsay has more patience than that. Context for one of these creators at least. Solar Sands no longer makes this type of content and makes video essays now. His work is really cool. I recommend you check him out. A lot of these creators were quite young when they made this type of hateful content, so I think it's good to keep in mind that they were honestly just acting their age. It's okay to have some compassion for their past mistakes, at least to a reasonable extent. Some of these creators have done a lot more concerning things in times since. These pillars of the community back then created quite a sense of elitism and undue hate on the basis of content either being cringe or just bad. Where nowadays there remains some level of elitism, but it's often white-knighted to be framed in a moral standpoint to justify the dislike. It isn't uncommon for people to claim artists having pro-shipper art style, as before people would just be vindictive to be vindictive. To be frank, I think both are pretty equally destructive. The community has remained relatively similar, just in different contexts. The modern animation meme community more so suffers from the quick-paced environment of short-form algorithms. As before, the animation memes were often seen on YouTube's main platform. Nowadays, it's mostly posted in a short-form content on platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, etc., which tends to have a shorter lifespan for trends. Animation takes time and planning, which puts more pressure on the artists to rush their work, to do anything to stay ahead of the curve. It isn't helped by younger viewers commenting stuff like, "This trend is over." One thing that's been more exacerbated in the modern internet era is the main character syndrome of viewers. With the prevalence of short-form content and the development of AI and algorithms to create catered content, it has created this sense of entitlement to the videos pushed to individuals. Comments like, "No one asked," "It's not that deep," "I hate this trend," etc. are more common, and often the person saying this stuff doesn't even realize the implication of their comments, thinking often there isn't someone behind it somehow, like subconsciously thinking the content pushed onto their For You page is some sort of eunuch approaching the empress with a gift from a suitor. Like, be real right now, the content you see isn't about you. It just isn't, okay? Comments like this often come across as extremely juvenile and arrogant, and I notice it's often a trait of young Gen Z to older Gen Alphas. I think actively calling out this behavior for what it is, and well, frankly embarrassing them slightly, will help a lot in the denormalization of this sentiment that all content is just made for the viewer. It is to some degree, but it's also like, if you don't like it, someone does. Like, you're not the only viewer, man. People digging through your life to justify their dislike is definitely disconcerting and has become a far too prevalent issue on the modern internet. Many teens posting online will often have controversial takes, such as being heavily into pro-ships or just being unstable individuals, which often spars hate campaigns. Hey, I was a pro-shipper when I was 15. Why? Because I was 15 and didn't fully realize the real-world implications of normalizing and actively feeding unethical proclivities. That's why when we see a person who's really into that type of content, it is important not to demonize them unless it is very clear that they are well into adulthood. There has been a handful of situations in the community where a teen had some moral shortcoming and then they got doxxed. Being some visual anti isn't cool, you just come across like you have no life. There's a balance of speaking out against morally questionable behavior and minding your own business. The biggest change comes with cultural shifts. Seeing questionable content and having enough people say, "This is weird. What is wrong with you? What?" will shift the social lean on the topic without needing to actively seek out the person to harass them. One that I see often spoke about these days is the age of artists making animation memes now are quite a bit older than they were in 2016. Techniques and information is much more available, so the animation memes you see now are of a much higher caliber of quality than they were back then. The bar is a lot higher now, which has made a lot of artists really nervous and less likely to join on that art form. With the standard being set higher, you are more likely to receive hate for anything that is below that standard. Though I don't particularly think there's more hate or less hate, as time's passed, I do think the expectation of quality has exacerbated the issue for younger and beginner artists. But just as before, the biggest contributor to hate comments are teens and kids. No one else has that much damn time on their hands, let's be honest. I think it's important we do what we can to denormalize that behavior and support artists getting into the medium. If you randomly pass an animation meme and it looks like a little rough around the edges, definitely made by someone that's not that into it yet, I implore you to leave a positive comment. Encouraging and inspiring others is the best way to help the community reach new heights. No one is cool being nonchalant, no one is cool being indifferent to people's work. Actively putting down or devaluing artists is not edgy or I don't know, based, I guess. You just end up looking like a tantruming 5-year-old. And I think this whole, like, edgy bully humor that's really shown itself on things like Instagram Reels is just so juvenile. like I'm all for some, like, dark humor. But, man, you're just racist? Anyway, that's all I have for today, folks. If you like my art, consider commissioning me. You can reach out to me on Instagram, Discord, and Blue Sky, all in the link tree in the description. You got work tomorrow, or school, or rambling about those dang kids again. But as always, don't dream about wheat-based byproducts. Moi, je m'appelle Mademoiselle Noire.